Yeah, I'm going to stand up because, things haven't changed. 1909, NAACP is founded. Mostly, it was multiracial, but leadership was white. Ida B. Wells, W.E.B. Du Bois, they did research. So when I hear coded language in this race about us taking subservient roles or permission roles, I'm reminded of the founding of the NAACP. When the NAACP had its first black president in 1920, the ACLU was founded. White people. The more they started to collaborate, the less the NAACP pushed, the more tempered it became. And then we had other organizations come up in the 60s. 1966, Black Panthers. 1968, Puerto Rican Young Lords. These organizations realized that if you did not push harder, things would not change. And they also realized that the food lines were the voting lines. 1969, Tax Reform Act creates 501c3. Now you cannot combine the food lines and the voting lines. You separate them so you can starve and not have representation. That is what we are facing in Rhode Island. We are starving from resources and we do not have representation. We have gatekeepers in our community having us run. Stokely Carmichael, run towards that next degree. Run towards that subservient position. Run towards the early grave. We're out of breath. We're not going to run anymore. This is a stand that we're taking. A system will not accept our shared vision of change when it deems us illegitimate. And right now, Channel 12, this racist, left-leaning media organization, is not only excluding me from the next debate, and no one that cares about equity is saying anything, it's also excluding the only black candidate in CD2's race, congressional race, Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob. Racism is consistently accepted in this state. No one's doing anything. No one. We have organizations possibly that can't do it. But the people need to rise up. The people need to rise up and vote for Muñoz September 13th. I think I broke it the last time. All right. I'm standing. Sitting down for me is a little comfortable. Why are we seeing so much money pour into corporations? Just look at the donor list for everybody running for office. Just look at the donor list. Track the donor list to every deal that's made after the fact, every deal that's made before, right? And so, in Malcolm X's words, they have you running away from the wolf into the mouth of a fox. This is the game in Rhode Island. It's always about the lesser evil. Who's going to do a little less of the cronyism? The way that we need to fix our economy is by focusing on micro businesses. If we're going to raise corporate taxes for big businesses and qualify what big is, we need to remove the regressive tangible property tax. It's that tax that small businesses have to pay on things that are like 10, 20 years old. That's regressive. Democrats aren't talking about that because it takes a robust investment by the state to support cities and towns to create exemptions for tangible property tax. We need to talk about a supplemental wage program to support those micro businesses so that they can increase the amount that they're paying their employees. And we need to open up Rhode Island Promise to non-traditional students that can normally only attend part-time but aren't admitted now, right? Everybody talks about equity, but no one talks about connecting the dots, which have been staring us in the face for the past 8 years. Yes, we need a single payer system here in Rhode Island, but it doesn't happen with just money. We need free community health clinics that people can walk to. Yes, we need more skills, but we need to invite people into these programs and give them the skill sets to pull all the training programs into Rhode Island Promise so that the state's accountable. Because if we keep relying on these private companies in Quonset to create training programs, how many people in South Providence are going to get to Quonset? Right? This is all a facade, smoke and mirrors. People that have sat in office here did not stand up when Gina Raimundo waived the minority and woman-owned contract requirements during 2020. That's a fact. If you do not have the courage to stand up when you're in office, you will not have the courage to sit in the office of governor. Vote Muñoz. I agree. Activism should be a part of the criteria. A lot of this is coded, though. When you hear representation, the numbers actually add up. 13%, a judge, 63. Oh yeah, the population of Hispanics, blacks, and other races kind of falls into that. It's a trap. When we talk about representation, we need to have the number of judges of color that match the people in prison, the people that are going to be asking for parole, the people that are going to be criminalized by a cannabis legalization system that won't put them in prison for selling on the block, but for bootlegging. You know, there's a lot of traps in the criminal justice system, and unless we start to exponentially increase the number of judges of color, our people will continue to get imprisoned for different reasons. There are traps all around us. What you heard here about representation is one of them. The language we use, we need to define and qualify. You know, none of this is going to change unless we acknowledge that our people that are in prison are being tortured right now. They're being tortured. Solitary confinement. Makia's had an opportunity to change it. People here have had an opportunity to take a position. Some have, some haven't. People are being tortured, our people. People are being used as slave labor in the private prison. Why? ICE contracts are taking family members out of Central Falls, and then Central Falls' beautiful park across where those kids play, they're having to look across the street, at times knowing that their loved ones are there. Central Falls, where I grew up. This system will not change unless we have a governor in office that acknowledges these traps of language and of process and of procedure and aims to increase the number of judges to match the number of people of color that are already stuck in a failed system. You know, Roger Williams was a thief. And we have institutions in this state that continue to praise his name. He's a thief, a parasite. And because we can look away from Roger Williams, we look away from Brown University. A university that participated in the enslavement of indigenous people and African descendants of slaves, and still continues to say that it wants to write the books about it. And those are the books that people read about, and they try to say that's the history, and it's not. It's not the history. The tribe has the history, and the tribe will preserve its history, and it's up to us to create spaces where the Narragansett Indian tribe can tell everybody else those stories. So here's a story of a guy whose last name was Pell and a guy whose last name was Chafee. And how these two guys with these bridges that we cross at times came together and created a 1978 settlement agreement right before the federal government was going to give sovereignty to the indigenous people on their land. So it fast-tracked an agreement to landlock Narragansett Indian tribe, to landlock them, to give them a little bit of land, make sure they didn't have access to the ocean, and then to say that if you wanted to build on that land or do something, you have to ask us. So it's not really sovereignty. And so when the casino comes up, the Gaming Act of '85, and there was this chance, right? Economic opportunity, build a casino. The state says, no, you need our permission. You need to participate in the bid with us, or in the state bid. So time passes, and this other crook called Kachiri, a corporate executive, and that was praised for being a corporate executive, becomes governor. And when the tribe is very close to winning that bid, he uses the force of the police to raid a smoke shop for cigarette taxes. And he puts his knee on Bella's back. And he puts his knees on others' backs and drags kids. And everybody looked away. Channel 12, that racist media organization that's excluding people of color, looked away. Channel 10 looked away. If we want to identify and understand the injustices that are happening in the urban core, we need to only look towards the injustices that continue to take place towards our indigenous people, our Narragansett Indian tribe. I'm going to be a governor that stands with you and calls it out and fights for opportunities and resources so that you have access to the ocean and economic opportunity.